Guess. So hey, so my name is Alex. So the next slide would be that one. How do I switch slides? Oh, right. Big button. So my name is Alex. I've been lucky for the past year to spend a lot of time with companies going ICO. So I've been on enough the game industry for the past 15 years, starting from the very early pre-Oculus VR days up to more recently using AI and doing weird things with telemetry. When I started my company last year, I decided, hey, I want to go back to blockchain because I got those bitcoins and I really want to know how they work and really want to understand the token and the economy and why that thing has value. So I started a consulting company, Bitflare, where we helped a bunch of companies that wanted to go ICO redesign their token economy. And I was lucky to see a ton of various different perspectives, various ideas in ways where they think that token may help harness value for the ecosystem. One of the companies I've been helping is now the top ICO ranked by ICO Bench in the US today. So I guess I didn't do half a bad job. And over the past 3 months, I've been focusing more specifically on the gaming industry because I always get back to gaming at some point. So I took a whole team of veterans, and we are looking at using what we learned in the gaming industry. So that talk is really about kind of passing on to you guys all the various stuff I learned in the process over the past year on how to design the token economy, what works, what has worked, what has failed in the game industry, and kind of what's the takeaway that you guys may be able to use if you consider ever using tokens in your own games or just using your game designer experience and going into helping out ICOs. So first thing is repeat business, because at the end of the day, tokens are really so close to what we are doing in games and what we've been doing for the past 20 years. You guys all know about game loops. Game loops are things that are fun to do over and over again. And you have objectives that may be short-term, mid-term, long-term. You may be harvesting gold and then using that gold to buy bigger weapons and get those bigger weapons to get into bigger quests and defeat the boss and get recognition from your peers. So it all turns down to the same thing. You have things that you do over and over again. Why? Because the whole point of a token is having it circulate. So this is the longest blurb I have on my slides. Apologize for that. I wanted really to write this down. The whole idea of a token is that it's a symbol. It's a symbol of value. And the fact that that value goes from one person to another, to another, to another, and back, and those persons being stakeholders in your ecosystem, this is how you harness value. And the best examples of company using a token are really the one that managed to have those 3 loops, the short-term loop, the mid-term loop, and the longer-term loops, and having that token go through different parts of the ecosystem, but always coming back and looping. A lot of the ICO that I've seen were actually only seeing the token as a means of payment. Like I have $1, I win it from my job, and I spend it, and it's gone, and never coming back. And I have to work again on a various different level to get more money to spend. This isn't the best way. The best way is really when you have the token that flows around. And when you realize that the value of the token is pegged basically by the size of your ecosystem, because today the approach is that we have limited supply. We try to make, you have probably seen with ICO, they have 1 billion token, and we are saying 1 billion token. Why 1 billion? Because you create some water scarcity. You want that token that is being used through your ecosystem, the more people want it, the more people need it, the more value it gets, basically. And that's really the token security. That's the core idea of why do we have a token in the first place? Because we circulate it, and as it circulates and as people need it for this or that task that they want to achieve, well, they need the supply and hence the value increase. So it's really an offer and demand thing. So how many of you guys in the audience have traded stock ever. Well, that's big. That's pretty awesome. I'm impressed. How many of you guys know how a stock exchange works? How the price gets decided? Okay, that's a bit less. That's interesting. So that's really interesting. I wasn't expecting neither answer. So basically, the stock market is very simple. It's offer and demand. This is a screenshot from CryptoWatch. If you're into crypto, go into CryptoWatch. It's the best thing to really understand how is that thing working. And it's pretty simple. It's always the same thing. Someone asks, I'm ready to sell my coins, my Bitcoins for $10,000, so I put an ask, and if someone puts a bid at 10,000, there is a match and we can exchange. It's that simple. There's a second thing that's interesting is the liquidity. So maybe I'm only going to sell maybe I'm only going to be selling one Bitcoin at 10,000, but you may want to buy 100 at 10,000 or market price. So you have to go up the order book. So that means that the liquidity is actually a very critical thing in our economy. If people are holding, if there is no exchange, this kind of messes up the whole valuation of the coin, because people that want to take position will massively impact the valuation of that token, creating inflation. So if I want to buy a lot of those tokens and there's few to sell, I have to pay higher. It's pretty obvious. Now let's get back to games. Who has an idea of what is the first use of a virtual currency in a game? Anyone? Come on. I tracked it back pretty far back, but maybe I missed some. Yeah?
Double Dragon 3, the arcade game.
That would be 1980.
Yeah, 89.
Yeah, no, I have an earlier one. Anyone else? Prepare to be amazed. Zork. So Zog Mids, that's 1977. A bunch of dudes at MIT hacked together that Dungeons and Dragons game. And as you were exploring the dungeons, you could find gold, or actually Zog Mids, which was the currency in that game, that you can then use to buy items in the game and complete quests. So this is the first time that there is actually a currency for real in a game. In a video game, 1977. So this is that's prehistorical in the game industry, but it shows that this thing has been in our industry forever, and that's really what's super exciting. Over the past few years, well, we do have coins or gems that have a dollar value, and that's really what's changing. Today, we are the game masters. We create the game and we put a dollar value on top of our coins. There is no market incentives. There is no market impact. It's really the game designer, more likely the monetization manager, that says, hey, if I want to make sure that I fit my curve to all my players and that they pay the most, I have to create those packages and put that price. And there is an unlimited supply. So this is very different from what we do in tokens. The third thing I wanted to touch base is the fact that digital items already have a very strong value. Does everyone know the value of the highest sold item in the video game world?
50,000.
Way up. Anyone else?
$1 million.
Way up. Planet Calypso, Entropia Universe, $6 million. $6 million for a virtual planet where you can create business, and people were actually creating businesses on the planet and paying rent to the owner of the planet. So it's that mind-blowing. I mean, we are in an industry where originally, by construction, we have virtual currency, we have coins, we have items that have values. And we've had that for the past, 77 to now, that's almost 30 years. So let's wind back a little bit now about what's all about the blockchain. The blockchain is really about three things for me: trust, transparency, and collaboration. That's really the gist of why the blockchain has value. And now, with the blockchain, you can actually ensure that people working together to buy that planet will not screw each other up. People collaborating, people can own actually a share of that planet and pay it out. So there's all those elements that the blockchain, through trust, transparency, collaboration, actually bring to the table. So that opens up the way to a lot of different new ideas. Some that we tried without the blockchain and failed, some that we tried without the blockchain and succeeded, and some that are actually going to to be much easier to achieve with the blockchain. So that's kind of the last few slides that I have. Everyone remember the Diablo 3 marketplace? That was an epic fail. So we spent a lot of time with a few of the economists trying to figure out what's going on with Diablo 3. And it's kind of the antithesis of what actually made EVE Online a success. So EVE Online is inherently a marketplace of offer and demand over short supply and people grinding and spending time to acquire some elements to sell, and some people that don't have time but have money and are willing to pay for that. EVE Online is a success because it basically narrows down to a small group of indie developers and Dr. Ayo spending every day. As he was building that economy, every day he was going with the game developers, looking at the forum, figuring out what was right, what was wrong, and tuning all the supply mechanisms throughout the game every single day. So every day there was an update where they were changing the way the economy was running. Of course, that you can do that as an indie, and you should do it because EVE Online, that's kind of the reason why they have been so widely successful, because you can be either a pirate, you can be a farmer, or you can be a trader, and there is an actual value, and you can earn money and pay your subscription with that money that you get. So there's actually a loop going on. So that's pretty exciting. Every indie here should consider putting a marketplace, putting value on their item, and getting the players together to work and to exchange and to trade and to create social connections, because that's super valuable. Bigger companies, they can't do that because they can't every day change everything. They would get sued if one day that item is worth 1,000, you buy it for $1,000, and the next day it's $100. Doesn't work. They can't afford it. And they invested already so much that they can't lose 1% of revenue for testing purposes. An indie can, and actually succeeds. One thing that you've all seen is, how can I finance my game? Yeah, you guys have IP, you have items. You've seen CryptoKitties, cats have value. So whether it's an ICO or what I call an IIO, an initial item offering, those items have a value. They can be unique, they are standardized, they can be sold. So that's actually a pretty smooth way to do it, and a few have actually done that and raised substantial money from it. The other thing I love is the fact that you can put some of not necessarily all the items, but some of the items on the blockchain. This actually works. Let's say you have a card game. Once you reach a certain level of your card, you have evolved it to a level that it becomes really rare and epic. You actually own it and can trade it. So that's pretty cool. I can see Nicola recognizing that game. And finally, this is what we do at Azarus. We add skin to the game. That means that we create challenges where people can play one to another with full transparency. What are their skills, what are their level, and put some coin on the table, and hey, the first one who makes a kill on Fortnite wins, or the last one standing, the last man standing wins, and you can actually get that economy rolling in a very smooth way. So I guess I have 1 minute 25 left, and that's what I have for questions.
Yeah, well done.
Thank you. That was pretty much on top. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any questions then for Alex?
I know that was a mouthful, so we can definitely take that slower afterwards.
Yeah, speak loudly.
Is it on?
Yeah.
Okay, there we go. It's Jonathan Plesher, a long time in the games industry, back in console, online, mobile. You yourself, with your experience, I think one of the things that is rarely touched on at conferences is how do you deal with those core game loops that potentially can be considered gambling when you have an extensible currency that can be monetized as consideration, whatever you want to call it, not just cash.
No, absolutely. That's a very good question. So you know that this is a moving field right now. So we actually spend a lot of time with well, we have a partnership with Ubisoft, so we spend a lot of time with the lawyers and looking into the details of things. So what I can tell you is that within the next 3 months, we should have clarity of what's gambling, what's not. That's kind of the expectation of the industry. Today, the safe thing, you know, there are no good reason and no good answers. It's more about creating a context for the user to understand what are the risks and try to prevent negative behaviors, then gambling is okay. It's okay in most of the states in the US except from 3. It's okay in many countries. So gambling is not the issue at heart. The issue is more about protecting the users and preventing those who may be more prone into getting into addictive behaviors, those who are younger, to get into that. And one of the things that's actually pretty interesting with the blockchain is that we actually made strides into the identification, what we call the KYC, the Know Your Customer. So the fact that you actually know who those players are, that you have to know it before they can cash out or go into an exchange, and you have to kind of that gatekeeping mechanism that really allow you to understand who you are, who is playing your game. That also allows you, well, should allow you, if you do your job properly, to kind of gatekeep everything and ensure that you are in a positive and friendly and non-obsessive environment, ideally. Good. Nicole?
So
wait for the mic.
Right. Mike.
You say who you are again for people who didn't.
Nicole Lazaro, Follow White Rabbit.
Thank you.
Okay, so just wanted to riff off of that in the sense that, you know, if we're talking about game loops, addiction or let's just say a gambling, a Skinner box, right, whatever it happened to be, that isn't the only type of fun that a game loop can have. And I think that
Correct.
the message, I was curious what you thought in terms of a message to the blockchain community, the gaming community. What should we go after to make blockchain gaming fun? 4 keys, whatever it is, fun.
So indeed, for me, game loops are not necessarily about the gambling. It's not about frustration. We're talking about game loops in the sense of doing something fun that you do over and over again. And it's really about the fun. We're making games. We're not making. It's not work. It shouldn't be work. It's games. It's entertainment. So, just like you said, this is really about things that you do over and over again because you enjoy it, not because we frustrate you, not because you expect a gain. It has to keep being a game. And we actually have a talk with Nicolas from Ubisoft in 20 minutes about how games are being impacted by the blockchain. So we're going to touch base on a few of those subjects in a little bit. I don't want to say too much right now. But you're right. And inherently, people see blockchain and games as gambling. But it's more about giving data ownership. You own your items. They have a value. They stay. My kitties are going to be here forever on Ethereum. And that's pretty cool. And if people want that kitty, maybe increase in value, lowers in value. But the thing that I can use my kitty for other games or just hold on to it because I love that little guy. My wife thinks it's ugly, but I like it the way he is. So yeah, it's really not about looking. We're not making a casino here. We are making a game that leverages on the fact that, hey, everybody can see what are the items available, who has them, and if I want them and you're willing to sell it to me, fine, but it's not the only objective. The objective is to play the game.
Your level 40 WoW character isn't fun just because it's worth 10K on eBay.
No, yeah, right.
It's because of what you can do with it.
Absolutely. I want to play the game, and if the game has to be fun, that's like #1 rule. I really liked Benny's tweet from earlier. Like #1, the game needs to be fun to play. It's not going to be worth anything if it's not a fun game.
Oh, good. Thank you very much, Alex.
Thank you.